Hi, Liang. I'm going to ask you some questions about your second chapter. What is an education? Education is a buzzword that we hear all the time. It's confusing. What is an education to you?
Education itself is extremely dynamic, and I think sometimes because we create system structures, we don't change easily. And I think our technology has changed radically, even in my own lifetime. Luke, I was 6 years old when we got a television. My children don't believe me, but this is the truth. And now we come to the internet. You can have anything you want through the computer, through the internet again, So that's why we have to talk about education, right? Because knowledge, of course, sadly, is just not wisdom, right?
You use the phrase, they are God controlling infinity. What does the phrase mean?
Well, in your cell phone, you have absolutely everything. Anything you can think of, it's there, both good and bad. According to AdWorld, we get 78,000 pieces of data every single day through our phones. Most of it incorrect or misinterpreted, So this is how you're like God, in that sense. But you have, once again, you don't know how to analyze it properly in this sense, You don't have the education. And the age, of course, you're young.
You also mentioned Plato. What do you mean?
Well, in Plato's Republic, he describes that the society is basically broken into three tranches. There's the philosopher king, who runs the society, then there's the bureaucrats in the middle, and then there's the appetitive individuals, the working class at the bottom. And I don't believe that's our society. Our society now is mixed and probably should be mixed, with various levels of trades, let's say, for instance, or what have you, So look, if I could digress very quickly, I think something's quite fascinating. Let's say I owned a Porsche, and it had problems. I would take it to a Porsche mechanic. Now, in our society, a car mechanic, is not lauded, is not respected. But unless he fixes my Porsche, it doesn't run properly, correct? Now, in Germany, curiously, they respect the Porsche mechanic tremendously, and he almost has the same social status as a doctor. Not quite, but, so there we are. So that's why I think we need an education, and that's what a Platonist is, but which I'm not. Right?
To help us understand more about the subject, you give us some examples from your past. What was your early education like, and what were its problems?
I think the old system was extremely autocratic, and it assumed that the student was stupid, basically. And they were talked down to, which is an idiom we use in English, right? And sometimes we buy a magazine some of the magazines that we buy talk down to us like we're fools, right? And they weren't on the same equal level. Both human beings, one trying to learn more because he had less knowledge. So there was disparity in that sense. Autocratic, as we say, Like you're in the army in a way. Nobody asked for your opinion. Charge. Why? Nobody asked.
It sounds like you don't agree with the old system. And the concluding sentence of this chapter is, the rules had to be rewritten. It's an understatement, isn't it?
Yeah, an understatement. According to the UN, 25% of young people under the age of 25 don't have a job. And I bet you, Luke, honestly, 50% of those, so 12.5% overall, don't want a job. Not in this structure, right? Like, what am I getting into? I'm going to sell my time for a bit of money, not enough money to make me free, and so never buy a house, anything. So education has to respond, I think, and say, my gosh, you're a very special, very unique being, and you can do anything you want, given, of course, like the existentialists say, given that I'm a man, given that I'm 62, given that I have 2 children, given that I'm sort of white, I'm Canadian by birth, etc., etc. Those factors I can't change. Other than that, I'm free, and I think it's very important to identify with this. That I can do what I want to do, really, with effort, of course. It's all about Gladwell's 10,000 hours of work, right? You got to put in the effort.
Is there any hope? Do we have to shift the emphasis from the teachers to the students?
Well, I think depending on the society, I know that in the United States, for instance, and Canada, the teachers' unions are very, very strong, right? So they're interested in their members' needs. And I think, of course, the teachers might disagree, but I think the students are for sure number two, right? And they see the teachers as number one. And I don't, in my humble experience in life, you know, it's an honor to be a teacher, and it's a calling. And if you're thinking about it as a profession in the sense of you're going to make a lot of money at it, you're in the wrong profession, Luke. I know this with experience, you know. You're in the wrong profession. You know, but I think that's what we have to do. We have to become more sensitive. Now, can we do this on a large scale? I think Finland is doing it. You know, I mean, look at the success rate, but the classes are small, is the only thing.